This gives me, honestly, this gives me way more energy for the boycott personally. This really fires me up. But anywho, hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex. And I know in the earlier video today I said I wasn't going to make another boycott video, news video, but after I made that video, after I posted it, someone sent me a link, actually, Jakap Dashik, the really awesome Korean YouTuber for MFF. He sent me a link to this article that was written in Korean about the boycott. So I wanted to go through it with you guys. It's translated. I'm using Google Translate to change it into English because my Korean's not that good. And so I want to sort of decipher what the article is saying and talk about it because it's pretty interesting. There actually is some info that may be, I mean, there is some new info. I don't know if it's actually from people that work at Marvel Future Fight. It sort of sounds like it is, but I'm not 100% sure. And I haven't had the time or the ability to ask someone who speaks Korean to translate it for me. So if anybody out there can read Korean well and can read the article, I'll leave a link below in the description. Let me know if they're actually interviewing someone at Netmarble, because it sort of sounds like they're pulling sound bites from the production director, the guy that was in that video before with the woman who was grilling him about the rewards. But anywho, this is really cool, man. An actual news website wrote an article about the player boycott. So the title's kind of cut off here because I formatted it to fit on the page so you guys can see some gameplay and you guys can see some you can read the article if you want at the same time. But essentially it says exclusive Netmarble's Marvel Future Fight update pushed back against by users, you know, who are saying wrongly about the update, and then they're saying what happened. So there's basically saying that the update comes out, we pushed back against it, and now they're trying to figure out what exactly happened to make players not happy with this update. So there's one word they're going to use in here. There's one sort of phrase. They're going to use the word billing. Billing basically means spending money or gambling, that kind of thing. So at the beginning it says here, as existing users responded to the unreasonable update of the Netmarble, longtime Netmarble game, Marvel Future Fight. It says Marvel Future Fight, but we know it's Marvel Future Fight. Through a bill-free demonstration, which means spend-free. We're not spending, boycott, right? Spending stopped. The industry is drawing attention to the result of the confrontation between Netmarble and users. So here in the second paragraph, they just introduce Marvel Future Fight. They talk about some other games that the Netmarble is known for, and they talk about the IP and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Cool. They also talk about MFF here being a really successful game, right? It's been active. It's been in service for over 5 years. Over 100 million cumulative downloads. It's been in the top 10 for mobile game rankings in over 110 countries. Very successful game. Okay, cool. And then they go on to say that it seems like MFF has recently started to turn its back on the core users, which is us, the longtime players, who have declared a no charge, which is sort of like a no spending boycott type thing, meaning they wouldn't spend any money on the game. Now, unlike other games, right, because some games, even if they're older, they can still succeed by drawing in new players. But Marvel Future Fight is not that good at drawing in new players. What they are better at is making money, or sort of inducing, creating a situation for existing users to spend, right? So they say here, Netmarble has faced a serious crisis in that the spending of core users accounts for a large portion of sales rather than recruiting new users for older games. Most older games struggle with that as well, right? That's just the natural progression of mobile games. As they get older, it's harder and harder to be seen on the App Store and the Play Store because newer games are coming out and they want to, push out what's new. Apple and Android want to advertise what is new and what is hot. And so they have to lean on getting more money out of the existing users than from new users. So it's just sort of like the lay of the land, right? So what's happened? Well, how did we suddenly get into this situation where the players are boycotting and they don't want to build? So then they introduce the new update that we already know about with Venom, Spider-Woman, Scream, and Spider-Gwen. They talk about the update. They talk about the fact that we were really hype. The reaction of users who watched the live stream was favorable for the content update. They know we were hype about it when we saw the live stream. However, they say, after the system update was announced, controversy arose around the official forums and the official community. The contents of the system update were announced through star creators like myself, Beast Mode, Forgo, etc., and in other languages as well, not just in English, who can play through the test server in advance. So they know about the star creators. This is like a really well researched article. They're not talking, out of their ears here. They know exactly what's going on. This kind of blew me away that they did the research so accurately. So they said users fell into confusion after the system added the translation is bad. It says realignment and Segong system. Basically, we know it's the CTP and the premium card upgrade system, the reforging and the, what is it called, crafting system. So the problem is it's not just the billing, it's not just the cost of spending money, but because it causes a balancing problem with existing users and it inflates the entire game. Now, this is something that I haven't talked about very much, and it's something that this article does talk about more, but it's basically like the power spike, right? Because we've said before, I did mention it briefly, but, you know, every game is going to have power creep, and they're going to introduce new characters or new items or new resources that are going to be better than the previous things. That's just sort of the way it is, right? Because they want to make the new update exciting, and if the new update's characters are not that strong or whatever, then, you know, it's not very good. When we get a new comic card, if it's got bad stats, people just ignore it. So it has to be better. But when we say better, we're hoping for maybe 5% better, 10% better, at most maybe 20% better. But this is like 100% better or more, because you're talking about being able to go from, you know, maybe at the top end 80% all attack and maybe 20% HP or 30% HP, to being able to go to 100% all attack or 150% all attack and 100% HP. You know, it's like it's crazy. It's a crazy increase, right? So the inflation is bananas. So then they go on to explain that, you know, it's basically gambling within gambling. So it's not just that you have to use the CTPs, get the CTPs. We already know, right? It's not just additional, it's not just regular billing, there's additional billing. So you're not just gambling once to get a CTP, you're gambling multiple times to get multiple copies of the same CTP. And then they use these examples here with these screenshots. You need multiple CTPs. And then on top of that, they mentioned that, and it's true, it's not even a guarantee, right? The chance of getting the Radiant CTP, I hate this system, but anyways, even if you're sacrificing these gacha items, the chance that you get what you're looking for is a 7%. There's a 7% success chance if you use the maximum number of CTPs. So you're sacrificing, like, I think it's 6 CTPs, the 1 base energy, and then 5 regular random CTPs. 6 CTPs for a 7% chance to get a Radiant. That's mental. Users' criticism was not limited to the billing, to the system that induces billing. So it's not just the fact that they want us to gamble. While you want us to gamble, you're only guaranteeing a probability of 7%. It's not a fixed probability. It's not a guarantee. And that introduces an unreasonable probability game. It's a so-called gacha. It's absolutely a gacha with an extremely high probability of failure. Yeah, it's a 93% chance to fail. And you've sacrificed. So, like, let's say you're going to pity every single time to get those CTPs, right? Going to pity means you're spending 675 crystals times 11. Now times that by 6. That's 45,000 crystals you have to spend for those 6 CTPs. 45, almost 50,000 crystals. That could be equatable to $500. So $500 for a 7% chance to get something. That's way worse than gambling for characters in Contest of Champions. That's way worse than gambling for characters in 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross. Because in this situation, if you fail, you don't get anything back, right? If you fail in Contest of Champions, sure, Seaton doesn't get his 5-star Apocalypse. Sorry, bro. But he got a whole bunch of other characters, and he got ISO, and he got gold, and he got, you know, other resources. You don't get anything out of the system. Okay, you get the 3, 4, 5-star obelisks from your gambling, right? But that's not worth much. We know that's worth very, very little. It's not even comparable. And in Grand Cross, if you don't get the characters, you're still gonna get silver, gold, and platinum coins, which then you can use for other characters. Again, the value here is incomparably low. Unlike other games such as Lineage, MFF, and this is very true, MFF had a strong character of a game that guaranteed a certain degree of growth as much as you charge. So unlike other games, MFF has largely stayed away from really heavy gacha mechanics. Now, there are gacha mechanics in the game with gambling for CTPs and gambling for P cards, but otherwise, you sort of know if you invest this much, right? Like, for example, the potential system, you can have a degree of growth. If you want to do 100%, you have a 100% chance and you'll automatically get it, right? There's a bunch of guarantees and limits on the RNG. But with this, it's insanely high. The rate of randomness is insanely high. And then so they talk about the history of MFF. It's really interesting. And they talk about the Ultimates update in 2017. So they go back in time. MFF eventually withdrew the update. This is true. In 2017, they withdrew part of the update that included the Ultimates Gacha loot box. By raising a white flag, they basically surrendered due to intense criticism from users. Hopefully we can have the same impact this time. In addition, at that time, they promised not to introduce random probability system for character supply and demand in the future, basically saying they would not bring loot boxes back for characters, and they have not. They have not brought back loot boxes for characters. So we succeeded once. We can succeed again. However, this time, because the new loot box is for items, not characters, right? That there's a difference there, but players are continuing the same. We're going down the same path again, right? We just want it out, you know? So then they go on to sort of kind of defend Netmarble in this article, basically saying that, you know, the company is not a charity, right? It's possible to protest that it's not a charitable company to criticize users for spending money on the update, right? Sure, that's fair. It is a business. I recognize that. But the problem is the criticism of the gacha format is that there's a high probability, you know, you have to compare the probability of success because not every game is the same, right? And so because you have a low rate of success, the lower the rate of success, the more money you have to spend. You know, there is a difference. Some people just see gambling as black and white, but there is a difference, right? If I'm spending $5 here and there and I have a 5% chance versus I'm spending $50 and I have a 7% chance. I'm spending 10 times as much and I'm not getting 10 times the probability of winning. I'm getting 2%, right? It doesn't add up, you know? And so then they go on to say you can enjoy the game. You can fully enjoy the game if you do not sell out, if you do not buy into the new systems. Yeah, I kind of doubt that. I feel like this part here maybe was just their opinion in general on mobile games. I don't really know how much research they did on this because this will ruin, and we know it will ruin PvP. And so that doesn't really allow you to fully enjoy the game. It allows you to partially enjoy the game. It also is not going to let you enjoy any new content that is automatically tuned for these new items like World Boss, Legend, Null, which they also talk about. So then they go on to explain, and this is where I'm not sure if they're talking to someone at Netmarble or if they're just somehow pulling these things from other articles written in Korean that we just never saw before. So they say Netmarble explained that they were not focused on creating short-term sales. So basically we get a look at, somehow we're getting a look at what Netmarble was thinking when they created this system of card crafting and CTP reforging. They were looking for, as the game progressed in its 6th year, we felt we needed a new growth factor, a new way for players to grow their accounts. And it was judged that this was an element to provide growth targets and lead the game for a long-term perspective. He added. I don't know who he is, but anyways. So basically, what they're saying in this article is that Netmarble is planning to have this as a main way to sort of lead the game for the next few years. And so future content for 2021 and 2022 and 2023 is going to be tailored for the difficulty to match this new upgrade that you're getting. But here's the thing. Here's my big criticism here. Why didn't they tell us? I'm not even going to talk about how the system is greedy as hell. I'm going to ask, why didn't they tell us? Because if that's true, where's the dev note, right? Where's the dev note where they said, hey guys, we are going to improve the comic cards. Here's a heads up, guys, right? Important notices. Where's the dev note? There's no dev note. Right, exactly. So I find that to be incredibly misleading. And I also find that to be probably bullshit because they released multiple dev notes this year and they never once mentioned upgrading CTPs and upgrading comic cards. So they purposely hid this from the users. If you are trying to design something to be gradually expanded, if you're trying to design something that's going to last in the game for years, why wouldn't you want to tell your players ahead of time? Why wouldn't you want to gradually ease? You know, it's like you're building a pool and you don't make it deep for, you know, all the way around. You start it off really shallow and then it slowly gets deeper. What you guys basically did, what Netmarble basically did is they grabbed us and they threw us in at the deep end. They dumped the whole system on us with all of the upgrades and everything right away from the beginning. That is not the actions of a company that is trying to create a system. They make it sound so nice, right? It's a system for long-term growth. It's long-term perspective. There's no long-term perspective. This is BS. This is a short-term cash grab. You guys are trying to cash out on your most desperate, most addicted gamers and players, and you're trying to just trying to string them for as much money as possible. There's no way you can defend this as a long-term thing. So this part of the article really did upset me. So they go along to mention more criticisms of users who have encountered prior updates, such as star creators. And they talk about how it's basically really hard to get comic cards, which is what you need, the resource you need for the crafting system. But then they say that the supply and demand has been increased. So it seems like this article is very, very up to date with what's going on in the game. It's a bit suspect, a little bit suspect. Regarding the question that there is no change in the training system, the CTP system, so this is apparently true. Discussions are continuing to provide the goods required for the training system for free. So apparently Netmarble is still mulling over giving us more free CTPs. Now they do give us 1 free CTP per month. However, the CTP reforging system is only for 3 CTPs right now: Transcendence, Energy, and Regeneration. So giving us a random CTP every month is ridiculous. But you know what's funny? It falls in line logically with the fact they just gave us the ability with the premium card box to get 1 premium card per month. It's actually not even per month. It takes more than a month. So they think in their minds that the supply and demand is now okay, right? You have 5 cards. You want to get all of those stats crafted and fixed. So to do all that, we're going to give you 1 premium card every, whatever, 35 days, every 40 days. Like, how does that compute? You know? It's like saying, listen, you need to eat 3 meals a day for a month. That's 90 meals. So I'm going to give you 1 steak and 1 potato and 1 head of broccoli. That'll be enough for the month. You got to be mental. You got to be out of your mind. Some of these have already been applied to the game. They're talking about the monthly CTP login event. We plan to gradually expand this part. This is where I find the most BS with this article. This is their excuse every single time that they get. This is Netmarble's excuse every single time they get cornered and every single time they get criticized. We're gradually expanding. We're gonna give you more rewards. We're gonna give you. 6 months ago they said the same BS, the same song and dance when that lady Ginny was grilling the PD and he kept saying, you know, I know about the rewards. We're gonna improve the rewards. They haven't improved jack squat. They have not improved any rewards, period, in the game. The only rewards that they improved were, I mean, they added brand new stuff to Giant Boss Raid. That doesn't count. All they did was they improved the rewards in the story mode. That's it. That's it. So this is complete baloney. So then they talk about, apparently they have some sound bites, or they have some information from the MFF production director, Kim Yoo-jong, which I think is the guy that we saw in that video. And then they talk about how if you're a light spender, you can collect the heroes that you want without too much money. That's sort of true, I guess. And then for players that spend a lot of money, they want to create a balanced spending model. Really? You guys want to create a balanced spending model? And then the article goes on to say, many users point out this update is contrary to such remarks. Of course it's contrary to such remarks. Of course. There's no way that this is a balanced billing model. You guys went from asking players to spend maybe $100, $200 a month to like $2,000 a month, $5,000 a month. You guys are mental. It's like 10 times, 20 times increase. It's not even close. How can they say this kind of stuff? How can these guys just straight up lie? He's straight up lying. If this is a real quote from this guy, he is straight up lying. So they can feel the sense of growth. Well, I am doing it. You're not doing jack. You're lying through your teeth, buddy. This is an absolute lie. I hate that. So, yeah. They go on to say that the part of the problem with the gacha system is balancing, and you know, it just has like the inflation is insane. And the gap between existing heavy users and new users is just going to explode, right? So yeah, they go on to say that. They go on to explain other ways that we've been spending money in the game, like agent level, the card collection sets, and Odin's Blessings, which is true. But the CTP and comic card upgrades are just, you know, this one update is a stronger power jump than all of these things combined. You can have a player who invested into their agent level, into the full card collection and into Odin's Blessings, and another player who ignored all of that and now is going to dump all of their money into the CTP reforging and the comic card crafting, and they are going to overcome all of those increased stats from the other player. That's 100% true. The inflation phenomenon is insane. And the imbalance of the game is inevitable. Yes, it says balance, but it means the imbalance of the game is inevitable. Of course. Of course. Because I can just roll up as a new player, and if I can craft these cards in these CTPs, I'm going to dunk you. It doesn't matter what your agent level is. Some people are agent level like 250 or 350, which means that they've spent like 20, 30, 40, $50,000 easily. And they're going to be eclipsed now. It's ridiculous. So it's not only that this new system is super expensive, but it's that it invalidates and it supersedes previous systems, which pisses whales off. Because you're basically just saying that their investment was worth nothing now, which is really bad. So that's part of the reason why they have such a large. That's another part of the reason why the boycott is being so successful, and it's being adopted by such a large portion of the players, right? And then there's some more lies. Okay, the goods required for the new system can be obtained through gameplay. This is true, but it's such a lie at the same time, because sure, the goods, like, you can get the items that you need through gameplay. Sure, CTPs do drop in Giant Boss Raid. Yeah, once in a blue moon. So yeah, just play Giant Boss Raid 1,000,000 times and you'll get a CTP. So I guess it can be obtained through gameplay. There's no mention of the odds. There's no mention of the frequency that you get these items. There's no way. I mean, you can technically get a CTP or a premium card from Shadowland. Have I ever gotten one? And I've opened like tens of thousands of boxes? No, I've never gotten a single one. So the amount of sarcasm and like, he's being so facetious, it's ridiculous. This is just gross, dude. These quotes are so, I really hope these quotes aren't actually from the Netmarble production director, because he's being so fake, and he's intentionally misleading the person who's writing this article. So yeah, then they talk about World Boss Legend, which is new content that's going to be expanded in the future. Again, these are just empty promises that we've never actually seen them fulfill on. And then they talk about adding a fun element by adding more high difficulty content. And then, again, providing rewards for raising stats by rewarding users for solving high difficult content. This is hilarious. Rewarding users for solving high difficulty content. They already don't do that in the World Boss Null fight. The World Boss Legend Null fight is not rewarding. I can get the same rewards by just one-shotting stage 99 of Ebony Maw or playing through stage 50 of Thanos. The rewards are the same. Honestly, the rewards are actually better in other world bosses because they can drop Odin's Blessings. So this is just a big, bold-faced lie. It's actually crazy. And then they talk about how the forums have erupted. And the cool thing here is they not only have this like Korean candlelight vigil that was spammed all over the Naver Cafe, they also have the boycott one that I believe it was Agent MFF. I can't remember his name exactly, but he was posting these screenshots with the X and the boycott on the new upgrade system. So pretty hilarious that they screenshotted this, and that they talk about the other forums as overseas. It's really hilarious. So the overseas, they talk about the candlelit demonstrations. They talk about overseas forums. That's Reddit and you know, the official forums in English and stuff like that. And then they talk about Korean alliances like Odyssey, Marineford, and then other alliances like the Chinese Alliance Dream, Wanted R, and 168 Destiny in Vietnam, who are also declaring no charge because they're part of the boycott, right? So this has really gained a lot of attention to the point where they can find all of this information out. So it's pretty impressive. They're also talking about some players who are deleting their account, or like deleting their game, uninstalling. And then they sort of tie it into Marvel Future Revolution, and they actually ask the question of whether or not, and again, I don't know if they're interviewing someone or if they're just speculating, but they ask the question of basically, is MFF sort of being winded down in order to make way for Marvel Future Revolution, and is Marvel Future Fight going to stop getting as many updates because of Marvel Future Revolution? And then they said, again, I don't know if this is a quote or not, a direct quote, there is no plan to end the service. First of all, the plan is to keep updating Marvel Future Fight so players can enjoy the game for years to come. And then he says, you know, we expect you to evaluate the contents of this patch from a long-term perspective after the update, and we are constantly monitoring and collecting user opinions. I bet you are. We try to reflect the opinions of users as much as possible within the existing planning direction. That's not true. As far as character reworks this year, that is true. But as far as rewards and reward structures and not being pay to win, that is 100% false. We have been begging for better rewards for the entire year, and they have ignored us. So this is very misleading. This update is seen as a long-term growth line, and we will continue to communicate with users through official cafes and official sites to provide better games. This is another lie. Again, they did not communicate the system at all to us. They didn't even want to show us the system on the Cage and Kim live stream. They hid the system from us on purpose. So if anything, their communication is worse than ever, right? So yeah, however, controversy continues in communications in communities such as the official cafes. It's true. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. So I found this article very interesting. It's also very frustrating because it seems as though Netmarble is projecting a completely false narrative of what's actually happening in the game to outward news sources that are not that familiar with the game. And it is a bit frustrating to me that whoever wrote this article, and I thank them for writing the article, they did so much work to research it and find out about star creators and alliances and all this stuff. You know, they really know their stuff, right? They're even quoting the names accurately. They're posting the names of the alliances accurately down to the last character, but then they don't go so far as to verify some of these official quotes and verify the accuracy of these quotes, because, you know, they can sell you whatever they want. They can blow smoke as much as they want. And if you're just going to believe them because he's wearing a suit and he works at Netmarble, then it sort of betrays the authenticity and the accuracy of your reporting when, you know, it comes to something else that's not, you know, based on the player's perspective. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this. I really appreciate and I really like the fact that it got so much attention. Like, this is a long article. You know, the fact that someone wrote all of this and they published it on this website. This is not the most popular website from what I understand. A lot of Koreans didn't recognize this website when I sent it to them at first, but this is a reputable website. It's not like some goofy personal blog. Like, this is a real website. And so, yeah, maybe this is going to pick up more traction. Maybe this is going to put more heat on Netmarble, and hopefully they'll, you know, actually do the things that they lie and pretend that they're doing when they get interviewed, right? Because I'm kind of sick and tired of them making these videos and these songs and dances where they sit there and they lie and, oh, we're gonna listen to the players and we're gonna improve rewards and we're taking your feedback into consideration. You're not. You're really not doing any of that. You're only taking our feedback into consideration when you're reworking characters, because you know you're gonna profit on that. You know you're going to profit on new uniforms. You know you're going to profit off of people buying Odin and buying Dormammu and all of this stuff. And it's just sleazy, man. It's just sleazy to lie when it's so easy to just read it and know that you're definitely not improving rewards. And you definitely haven't been improving rewards. And so when you say you're going to improve rewards, we know that that's already a lie, even though we can't see into the future. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. This gives me, honestly, this gives me way more energy for the boycott personally. This really fires me up. But anywho, let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.